Recording in progress.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will call the General Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, which does provide for both forms of participation in this new world we live in. I will run through a consent agenda to start off tonight. For the consent items, I'll read out the title associated with the recommended motion from the staff report. The item for discussion, members of the General Committee may ask that the item be held in order to be discussed further. If the item is not held tonight, it's deemed to be approved, and the recommendation will go forward to City Council for consideration at our next meeting, which is June 20th. Reports of reference, advisory, or special committees. The report of the Finance and Corporate Services Committee dated May 31st is to be received. There were three items from that meeting recommended to General Committee. The first one is with regards to municipal elections and student education. No holds on that. It is approved. Next, we have the 2021 year-end audited financial statements for the corporation. Seeing no holds, that is approved. Finally, we have an item on overnight waterfront parking and traffic bylaw updates.
Hold, please.
Held by Councillor Harris. Next, we have the report of the City Building Committee dated June 7th. That's to be received. There's one item recommended for General Committee's consideration. That's with regards to the Municipal Heritage Register for 2 and 4 Innisfil Street. No holds. That is approved. We have 4 staff reports on tonight's agenda. The first one is a service level agreement with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. Anyone wish to hold that? Seeing none. That's some good news, as that service level enhancement should help expedite development approvals, especially housing, which is obviously a key objective right now. The next item is with regards to automated speed enforcement cameras in school and community safety zones.
Hold, please.
Held by Councillor Rippma. We have a staff report on the Harvey Road, Big Bay Point Road parking restrictions in Ward 8. No holds on that. It is approved. Finally, the driveway restoration policy. No holds on that. It is approved. May your driveway never need restoring. 3 items for discussion. However, 2 of them have been withdrawn. So the only one we need to consider is traffic signals at Grove and Johnson Street. It's to investigate the feasibility of that, put on by Councillor Riepma. No holds. That is approved on consent. Okay, then the items that have been held tonight, we have just 2. The first is the overnight waterfront parking and traffic bylaw updates, held by Councillor Jim Harris. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'll put this on the floor as written, and I'll have an amendment. So the amendment is that the traffic bylaw 2020-107 as amended be repealed and replaced with Appendix B to the report of the Finance Corporate Service Committee dated May 31st, 2022 concerning overnight waterfront parking and traffic bylaw updates as amended in Schedule 1, no parking anytime, as follows. By removing Gray Lane, both sides from Tallendale Mill Road to the easterly limit, by adding Gray Lane, west side from Tallendale Mill Road to easterly limit, and excuse me, by adding Gray Lane, southeast side for 230 meters west and from easterly limit to 30 meters from Tallendale Mill Road, and I can speak to that.
Okay, we have an amendment from Councillor Jim Harris to change the parking restrictions on Gray Lane a little bit. So if I understand this correctly, Councillor Harris, what's proposed in the bylaw is basically all of Gray Lane from Tallendale Mill to the easterly limit, and you're proposing all of the west side and a portion of the southeast side.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lehman. Yeah, with the assistance of staff and thank you to Mr. Forsyth, concerns have been brought forward from the residents about the current parking restrictions. This area has existing full parking restriction, and there was interest in having some parking allowed on the street. And so residents were surveyed, and the results were interesting and helped inform where to best put the on-street parking, where to maintain the current no parking. So what we've been able to come up with is a section of Gray Lane that runs from Tollendale Mill Road on the I guess get my east, west, and south up on the one side, which will allow for parking, which significantly addresses the interest for those who want some parking and manages the concern on some of the area of Gray Lane. There's a very sharp bend, as people will know, in Gray Lane, so not have parking in those areas, but still allow parking to meet the desired need from residents on the section of Gray Lane where they want parking. So.
Okay, thanks very much. On the amendment, are there any comments or questions, members of the General Committee? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor of the amendment? On the main motion as amended, any further comment? Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. And this was a pretty thorough report. But I wanted to maybe ask, through Michael Proust, maybe to Mr. Forsyth, just the implications that this council approved $10 an hour parking. And I know it's not directly related to this report, but us going into the summer and maybe just seeing what success stories or failures we had by approving the $10 an hour increase at the waterfront.
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor McCann. Yeah, so the $10 an hour change was made back in June of 2020. Since then, we have seen our revenue on the waterfront go up. So if you look at 2019, which would have been probably the first full year of, or the previous rates, we were in and around the, sorry, I don't have the number up in front.
I think 325.
There you go, 490,000, sorry, 490,000 in 2019. 2020, we were 500,000. 2021, we were 900, north of 900,000. So we'd almost doubled from 2019 to 2021. Now, it is important to note that, you know, there was a lot of lockdowns and things like that that may have encouraged behaviors one way or another, either bringing more people to the beach or not, but that is what happened to the waterfront revenue over those 2 years.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brent. And, you know, the numbers are the numbers, and obviously this year may even out, may get stronger, may get weaker. But I just think that's a great testament to the city again, looking at the foresight, looking how the beaches were crowded, and that increase didn't have any increase really to the actual taxpayer. That was pretty much all tourist dollars. Would that be a fair assessment?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councilor McCann, yeah, that was what was collected at the meters and through Hotspot and the non-resident permits. So it was, we don't charge for our resident permits, so assuming residents had their permit, then it wouldn't have been a fee to our residents.
Other than the 92 pages we had to read this weekend, thank you for that. Thank you.
Any other comments, members of the General Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the motion is amended. Anybody opposed? None. That carries. Thank you. The only other item that was held was with regards to automated speed enforcement cameras in school and community safety zones. Councillor Riepma, you held that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll put it on the floor as printed. I have two amendments. The first amendment, these amendments have been circulated. The first amendment has to do with the number of cameras. The staff report recommends 2. I'm asking in the amendment that staff take a look at adding another 2 cameras to that. So the amendment is to paragraph 1, bullet 1, and just adding the words, with staff in the Development Services Department to report back to General Committee concerning the costs and requirements associated with leasing an additional 2 mobile cameras. The thinking behind this is that we have 23 community safety zones where these cameras are going to go. If we have 2 cameras, that means you've got a 10% chance of getting caught speeding. If we have 4, then you've got a much higher. You've got twice. You got 20% chance of getting caught. So I'm not suggesting that we commit ourselves to doing that, but I'd like to know, we are spending $300,000. Does it mean that we're going to spend another $300,000 on top of that, or is it another $20,000 or somewhere in between? So that's the First Amendment. The second amendment asked staff to have a look at the feasibility of putting community safety zones at secondary schools. When I read the report, there was one word that jumped right out at me, and that was elementary. And we seem to have only the elementary schools covered, whereas I think that also covering high schools was probably a good idea. And that's the background for my second amendment. That reads to add the following as paragraph 5, that staff in the Development Services Department evaluate the feasibility of community safety zones adjacent to secondary schools for the variable time flashing 40-kilometer-per-hour sign upon council request and report back to General Committee. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm suggesting maybe we do one at a time. And
Yeah, we should do one at a time. So on that first one, Councilor Riepma, which is to look into doing 2 more, asking staff to report back on the costs and requirements associated with leasing an additional 2 mobile cameras. If you can, you'll put that on the floor. Okay,
Yes.
That's the first amendment. It's on the floor. Any comments on that amendment, members of General Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of that amendment? Is anyone opposed? None, that carries unanimously. And then the second one, I think you also circulated the language on that.
Yes.
Councilor, or the clerk did. And that's that staff in the Development Services Department evaluate the feasibility of community safety zones adjacent to secondary schools for the variable time flashing 40 km sign upon council request and report back to General Committee. On that matter, does anyone wish to speak to that? Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. To the mover of the amendment, what are the logistical implications of the upon council request? Like, how does it affect your amendment?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
it seems to me that what we would do is we would specifically, if we were thinking about one of the high schools, we would specifically ask staff to take a look at that particular high school and add it to the list.
Okay, so staff isn't looking at all the high schools, it's only allowing them to take requests about a specific?
That's correct.
Perfect, because I was gonna say like St. Peter's and maybe St. Joe's would be a little bit tough to do 40, but something like Eastview makes sense, or Nouvelle Orleans, so, okay, thanks.
Okay, other comments on the amendment? Okay, we'll call the question. Seeing none, those in favor of the amendment? Anybody opposed? None? That carries as well. On the main motion as amended, did anyone wish to speak to that? Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to staff, maybe, would it be Paula or? Through you to staff, I don't know who it would be. In the temporary pilot project, are we gonna use mobile trailer cameras? Or are we gonna build the 23 pedestals for the cameras for the pilot project?
Mr. Rosen.
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Thompson, I believe they're fixed in place. Either attached to a pole or fixed in place. We'd have to further look into that, but that's.
So basically with the 2 or 4 cameras, whatever the report comes back, the pedestals and the signage would still be erected at all 23 locations, and then the cameras are actually the thing that is mobile, not the actual unit. Is that correct?
Through your worship, it's the unit and itself move. You
Yeah,
can
so
put, sorry, go on.
Just as the pilot project in Toronto, it was the pedestals and everything was in place, where the residents or the people driving through, they never knew where the cameras were. So it actually has an effect, even though there's not cameras there, it changes the behavior. So I was just wondering if that's the process we're going through with the permanent pedestals with the 2 cameras rotating, or 4, on a timely, where nobody really knows where they are. Is that kind of the approach we're gonna be taking?
Through you, your worship, the approach we're looking at is not having all locations have a fixed box. There is talk of possibly through the program, we might have a couple. As we're moving between location to the next location, we might have multiple stations up, but the intention's not to have a sort of, if you call it a dummy box set up to the city.
Just to follow up, Mayor. So like, if you look at the red light cameras, they're at every intersection, well, not every intersection, but they have 140, but they only have, I think they're up to 40 cameras. But when you're driving through an intersection, you have no idea if there's a camera there, so your behavior changes. So that's not the approach we're taking. We're not gonna build 23 permanent pedestals. Like, they're going to be actual mobile units just to where the cameras will be? Is that?
Correct. Correct.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lehman. It's not necessarily a question, but maybe just add a little bit of color to Councillor Thompson's question there. If we look to our neighbors to the south, they have been quite successful without having to use the dummy boxes. And I can say that it definitely does appear that there's been a change in behavior after the boxes are moved. But again, it would be interesting to see some statistical reports from other municipalities to see what their statistics actually do show.
Deputy Mayor Ward?
Just a question of clarification. I know the staff report mentions 23. I thought it was referring only to the places there are flashing lights. I think do we have more than 23 community safety zones in Barrie? And what is the number of those which would be eligible for these?
Your Worship,
photo radar?
the Community Safety Zone bylaw, I believe, has 81 community safety zones, but 23 are variable time flashing 40 spots.
But we would be able to put the photo radar at all 80 spots, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch. Any other questions or comments, members of General Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion as amended twice. Those in favor? Any opposed? None. That carries. That'll go forward to council next week for final approval. And thanks to staff, this was a long, again, and winding road on this ask from council, which has been made a couple of different times, and really the circumstances didn't permit till more recently. But this will be, I think, a welcome step forward for many in our community. That completes the items that have been held on tonight's agenda. Brings us to inquiries of staff. Deputy Mayor Ward, or inquiries. Go ahead.
I have none.
Members of General Committee, any inquiries? Councillor Aowen.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'm not sure if, do we have time on the agenda tonight for circulation list items as well, or should I be asking any questions on the circulation list?
Yeah, well,
now?
tonight's circulation list and last week's, yes. Yep.
Okay. It is on the May 30th circulation list, but yeah.
That has passed by. If there is a matter that was on that list that you have an inquiry of staff or council, you can go ahead with that.
Yeah, I do. It's so it's on the Heart Barrie sign and the fundraising for the project, and I want to ask staff about that. And my first question is on the fundraising itself. Do staff have any involvement, or will they be following up at all on the extra money that was raised and what that's going to be donated to?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor Alwyn. Councillor Alwyn, staff are not involved in the fundraising component, nor the designation of where additional proceeds may go. Council directed that the funds be split fairly generically, I believe, between Save the Turtles and Save the Beavers program. I think at that time there was a presentation to Council around Wilkins Beach and a program associated with that. One could draw the conclusion that's where at least some of the money was dedicated to go to, but the rest was left up to Councillor McCann.
Okay, and my second question is more general around the city's donation policy. I did notice that on the list of donors there were developers with pending planning applications in front of the city, and that just sort of raised a question for me around our donation policy. Now, I understand staff aren't involved with this particular donation process that was delegated to the councillor solely, but is that something that we allow in our donation policy, donations from developers with pending planning applications?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor Alwyn, technically speaking, the donation policy would allow that. The donation policy generally speaks to what is a charitable donation for the city, where we may consider a tax receipt for the person donating. It doesn't really speak to the sort of gray area as to whether it's a good judgment donation or not. So that's not captured by the policy. But I would say that on planning application, for example, we would probably not accept donations at the same time as a planning application if staff were running the donation.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, any other inquiries, members of General Committee? Okay, seeing none. Announcements, Deputy Mayor Ward, any announcements?
I have none.
Members of General Committee, any announcements? All right, Councillor Kungl and then Councillor Owen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Just a quick announcement for the members of the public. And with thanks and acknowledgement, we have 2 art installations that have been successfully put together at the East Bayfield Community Park. I'll provide more information because I do want to give staff some acknowledgement next week after the full process is done, but we are looking forward to meeting with, I believe, grade 3 from the Terry Fox School, who will be joining us in the park on Wednesday to do a bit of an event with seeds, and pollinate berry will be planting there. But in particular, thanks to Councillor Morales and Councillor Robert Thompson, who are involved in some of the aspects of planning with staff, an appreciation to support with your time and effort our ability to figure out logistics to get 2 art sculptures erected. If you have the opportunity, members of the public and staff and fellow councillors, I would invite you to take a stroll through the East Bayfield Community Park. These were developed in alignment with the Barrie Public Arts Committee and several different departments of staff. And in addition, they are local artists, Derek and Tracy Martin, and both installations help to symbolize climate action and the importance of our environment. So more signage will be erected in the coming week or weeks to give you some background around that, and hopefully it becomes part of inviting schools to the outdoors for some education and opportunities to explore that art.
Thanks very much, Councillor Kungl. Councillor Owen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I have one announcement about 2 public meetings happening for Ward 2 proposed developments tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. And it is in person here in the chambers, but you can participate virtually as well. So it's for zoning bylaw amendments for 219 and 223 Bayfield Street, and then also an application on Sophia Street East and McDonald Street in that area. And there is a 3rd public meeting in Ward 7, but that's tomorrow evening, 7 p.m., and I hope to see residents there and engaged.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. Any other announcements? Okay, Councillor Morales, Councillor Harris, Deputy Mayor Ward, you all thought of one after these 2 came. I mean, if we just keep going long enough, everybody can get in on this. Councillor Morales, you're next.
Green eggs and ham. No, I'm kidding. So thank you, Mayor Lehman. Through you, I just wanted to share with the public, I had an opportunity this past week to walk the streets of Country Lane after an incident there in Ward 9. Why I'm bringing it up is for anybody in the city, because it was very popular, and I'm actually going to find a way to push it out more in my own communications, is if you have a security camera at home, whether it be a camera or a Ring doorbell, you can register with Barrie Police. And here's the thing about the registry. They only know that it's there. They don't have access to it. So this isn't like a movie where they just press a button and use it. And why this helps is in times of incident, whether it's something significant like last week in Ward 9 or something as small as just car break-ins or whatever, they know the camera's there. They can get to you faster. Time matters. And they can ask you if they can access the footage specifically between times. The beauty about the registry is it's voluntary. So maybe you signed up and you wanted to do it, but when they call you, you don't want to give the footage, you can say no. But it does go it is significant for them to know where it is. So that is something where maybe in our great app, we can push something up in one of the notifications, because I don't have the link right now memorized, but I'm sure we can, if you Google it, we can make sure Barrie Police, people know where that link is. My other announcement, and I'm just saying this because I had a board member from the Barrie Library say to announce this, is I'm aware that Councillor Jim Harris and Deputy Mayor Ward had the opportunity to attend the ribbon cutting of a Barrie Library kiosk in Allendale. And you know what? I'll just give it over to Councillor Harris because I wasn't there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about this last week. I feel like we did, but it's worth highlighting because it's a wonderful program. And with the library kiosk located at the Allendale Rec Center by the 55-plus center, it's incredible. So kudos to the library staff again, Lauren Jessup, our CEO, and all the team. It's a great initiative. So thanks again for shedding a light on this, Councilor Morales. And just as far as I can continue on with my announcement, I just wanted to thank you, Councillor Elwin, for the cue. But the neighborhood meeting on Thursday night regarding a development application for 159 Huronia Road, and it's a Zoom meeting, and you're welcome to register online at City of Barrie Developments Ward 8. And on that theme, there's also a neighborhood meeting for a proposed development for 111 Bay Lane, and that's June 23rd at 5 p.m. Again, you can register online and make yourself available to be there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jim. Councillor Harris, next, Deputy Mayor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman, and apologies for not mentioning this earlier, but Councillor Kungal's announcement reminded me that the Communities in Bloom Committee is hosting a walking tour this Friday at 10 a.m. at the Arboretum, and it's also going to be tied into the official kickoff of the Hope Garden, which is the garden that began last year, but it was delayed for the opening because of COVID until this year. The official opening is going to be, there's illustrations. If anybody's been there, they'll notice illustrations by Mara Lewis pointing out some of the wildlife and flowers that you can see in the Hope Garden. And it's a very nice little project, and I encourage anybody that can make it to come out at 10 o'clock this Friday at the Arboretum. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor Ward. Any other announcements? Councillor Harvey. I knew we'd trigger at least one more.
I didn't want to feel left out.
Get in on
Actually, Councillor Elwin kind of triggered me about the public meeting there last night, or for tomorrow night. So just to remind residents about the public meeting for 15 Harvey Road. However, the address is a little deceiving because it is a massive piece of land, 33.18 hectares, and 12 of it is commercial. So it consists of 248 residential units that basically go all the way from Harvey Road all the way south down to where the dead end of Brine Drive is. So hopefully residents come out and listen.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. One of 3 public meetings tomorrow night at Planning Committee. Any other announcements, members of General? Seeing none. I'd like to proclaim the month of June as Barrie Pride Month in the City of Barrie, and June 18th is Royal Canadian Sea Cadet Corps 53 Barrie Day. The Ministry of Transportation is constructing a new interchange at Essa Road. You may have seen this in our press release today. MTO is, of course, widening Essa Road under the interchange. It is a major project, and starting on June 15th, therefore, they're going to be limiting traffic on Essa Road under Highway 400 to 1 lane. Won't that be fun? 1 lane in each direction, I should say. So already a congested area. Fortunately, there is a new bridge from Harvey to Big Bay Point, there will be no pedestrian access as of June 20th under Highway 400 at Essa. The access road running under Highway 400, the access road, sorry, that's separate, will be closed until the end of 2024. So there's more information regarding the Essa Road interchange and the Highway 400 overpass replacement project at barrie.ca/roadwork. But it will be, traffic will be restricted. This is the major impact. 1 lane in each direction on Essa under 400 while the province does that new interchange. The city is hosting a public information center on Wednesday, June 22nd for the Mapleview Drive East project, Yonge to Prince William Way. For more information, you can visit barrie.ca/roadwork. June 15th to September 15th, excuse me, the no parking except by permit will apply to all previously available on-street parking within walking distance of the waterfront. Vehicles must register for an active waterfront parking permit or display their parking pass. Residents can obtain that digital waterfront parking permit for free using the Hotspot app. To learn more, visit barrie.ca/waterfront parking. You can participate in Communities in Bloom by submitting photos of your garden by July 6th. This is for the digital book and online photo gallery. Again, website barrie.ca/communitiesinbloom. Deputy Mayor Ward mentioned the walking tour and project in the Arboretum. We did want to encourage folks to help us keep reusable items out of the landfill by participating in the curbside textile collection. You can gather up used clothing, pillows, bedding, towels, stuffed toys, shoes, and collect. The collection starts today, June 13th, till the end of the week, June 17th. Place your items in a bag, place them at your curb by 7 a.m. on Textile Collection Day. Between June 21st, I know a lot of people are interested in this, June 21st and October 31st, the city will be conducting a larvicide program under the authority of the local medical officer of health to control mosquitoes in order to prevent their development into vectors of West Nile virus. That's what it says here, vectors of West Nile virus. That is to keep the mosquito population down. For additional details, you can visit barrie.ca/West Nile. And the City of Barrie is updating the 2015 Waterfront Marina Strategic Plan. We do want to hear from residents, businesses, and organizations about their ideas for the waterfront. Next virtual public meeting will be June 22nd from 2 to 3:30 p.m. and then again from 6 to 7:30 p.m. They're 1.5-hour sessions that you can come to online. You can register at buildingbarrie.ca/waterfront plan. Now comments on the last two circulation lists that are on the agenda tonight, June 6th. Anybody have any items? Go ahead, Councillor Riepma.
Yes, item C7 is a very interesting motion by the Cambridge, and it has to do with building code amendments, to do with better energy, net zero kind of code amendments, and I think that's worth a discussion, and I would like to refer that to General Committee.
Okay, so that would be C7 from June 6th to General Committee on the 27th for an item for discussion.
Yes.
Okay, I will call the question on, actually, no, to place that as an item, we don't need a vote. I think I'm right about that, correct? Yeah, okay. Anything else from June 6th? No, June 13th, Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I was noting the annual report by Barrie Fire and Emergency Services, and I had a couple of questions for Chief Mainprice, if you would. So one great compliment around the services that you are doing. I would invite the public to take a look at the annual report. It's quite impressive. A piece that I was looking at and was hoping that you could share, I was noticing that you identified under the communications strategy and achievements was really that next generation 911 services. And I was hoping you might, because it's a pretty innovative process we're going through, and we lead, and you've got a nice highlight in there about the number of municipalities that we support through our dispatch services. So I was wondering if you could share a bit more about how that process is going for next gen and what the future is looking like specific to that project.
Through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Kungl, thank you for the question. Next Generation is well underway in our organization. We've hired an outside consultant to do a systems review of everything we have to make sure that we put the proper plan in place. They're helping us develop the RFP to acquire all the right hardware and software, and with a target date of mid-June 23 to have the system up and running, and it'll be in both our primary location at Barrie Fire and Emergency Service Headquarters, as well as our backup location at Police Headquarters on Sperling Drive. And that new technology will be in place for the City of Barrie, as well as the other 21 municipalities that we dispatch to. It'll provide a lot of new features. It'll literally be like the movies. When you call 911, you'll see the blue dot of where the people are with a much, much higher degree of accuracy. You'll have video to video calling, text calling, a lot of new technology built into the new features.
Thank you, and follow up. Will the progress towards that project have any impact around our ability to, should we be interested, or should other municipalities engage with us, actually service more municipalities through dispatch?
Through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Kungl, so it will. That technology, it's causing a lot of municipalities to rethink whether they want to be in the dispatch business or not. We've decided that we want to be. It's a good model for our community as well as a business model for the department. With that new technology, we are limited right now to the number of incoming lines that we can answer. There's still a hard key in the phones, and they're full. We have no more ability to take any more incoming lines. With the move to next gen, it goes to soft keys, so the number of lines will basically be unlimited. So we'll have the ability to acquire more customers should we decide that's the right model for us.
That's brilliant. And last follow-up, if I may. For those that may not be familiar about how we are supporting other municipalities around our dispatch services, I wouldn't want them to think that the city of Barrie as a taxpayer is covering all the costs for that. And so could you share a bit more about the benefit of those agreements and how some of that is a cost recovery for the services we're providing external to the city?
Good, through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Kungl. Yes, so our business model, we draw revenue from that service that we provide. Also, when a new customer comes to us, they pay the upfront costs to transition to us, so there's no cost to the corporation to bring in a new customer. They cover those costs. And then on a per capita, population based, we have a rate that we charge the other municipalities, and that offsets a tremendous amount of costs to operate our communication center, and we use that, and it also funds other projects within the department.
Thank you. My compliments to you and the team. You always do a nice job of also acknowledging retirements and new hires, and so it definitely seems to be quite an attractive place to work and very innovative projects that you've got. So my compliments on a great year past.
Great. Thank you very much. And actually, just while I have the mic for a moment, I'd like to thank the communications team for all the work that they put into the annual report. We provide them the data and the pictures, and they make it look great. So thank you to Rebecca and her team for the work they do on the annual report.
Thanks, Councillor Kungl. Any other comments or questions on the circulation list for June 13th tonight? Okay, seeing none, this completes General Committee. Next City Council meeting is Monday, June 20th, but of course tomorrow night we have Planning Committee. So we will see you all tomorrow night for Planning Committee. General Committee is adjourned.